What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi and Eric Sheets Haber. We're going to be talking. We talked earlier in the week. We did a first look for this week. There's still a lot of question marks. A lot of guys we're not sure where they're going to be. But I think it's a really it's a good slate. It's going to be a little bit wild, I think. And unfortunately, we probably won't know some things till Sunday morning. But we thought we'd do a position by position show. And usually I was doing these with Brody last year. He's got a lot of life stuff going on right now, and then kids with little league games all the time. That's what happens when you have a million kids. You got all that stuff. But so here we are, and we're going to talk through position by position, sort of what we like, which will probably lead into some stack talk and whatnot. Sheets, anything you want to start off with before we get into
Yeah, so I was actually, I'm glad we're doing this. I was thinking about this when I was walking to work today. I was listening actually to a cash show of people talking about, because I wanted to, who here, probably the best plays were. I was just kind of thinking through, like if I were doing cash, like what would I play? And then I don't know. It gave me a good impression of what the slate could end up looking like. So I'm kind of ready to go through the position by position stuff a little bit.
Awesome. No, that's great. And it's very interesting because something about SaberSim I think is broken right now. I really do, because I thought it would have changed by now, but the Geno Smith at 20% is just not going to happen. I understand he'll have ownership and he make it the cash game quarterback, but I think your projections are much closer to being accurate with these things. So I'm using Cheech's projections for ownership on that side. Now, obviously, things are going to change before Sunday, but where we're at now. So, where do you stand with the quarterbacks this week? What are you looking at? That it's not a position you necessarily need to get different at, because nobody's going to be super owned except for maybe Geno Smith. What are you looking at this week from quarterbacks?
Yeah, I don't think Geno Smith's going to be particularly high owned. I think that. Again, I used to do this when I did that 2+2 league. I would like go through all these things, I sort by point per dollar and the whole thing, and see who was like that rated that much higher than the other ones. That's when I used to play that way. And usually there's like a quarterback or two that kind of stand out, but this week I don't see it that way. I mean, I see running back is pretty concentrated, and then I see quarterback is just a lot of guys like really close to one another in all the different metrics. So like if you were playing like cash, for example, in a weird way, I would make sure I got what I wanted in the other positions, and then whatever I had left for quarterback and defense, you know what I mean? Like I would just kind of throw in there. Like how am I going to separate like Lamar from Jalen Hurts, for example, and Kyler Murray? Like those are like the upside, expensive guys. And okay, you have Kyler Murray $600 less, so all right, then that's something you can start with. But he projects like kind of a point lower. I think it's pretty efficient. I think all three of those guys look pretty good. I mean, you have all three of them are in incredible game environments, right? Baltimore against Dallas, that's going to score. Philadelphia against New Orleans, that's going to score. Arizona against Detroit, that's going to score. So I think all those guys at those price ranges look pretty decent. And then you have like kind of like the cheaper ones. If you wanted to go to there, like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, I have them rated pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. So I think it depends on what else you do with your other parts of your life. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of that. Now after that, then you're in. It's kind of funny because like Anthony Richardson, I have his next. He's like $200 less than Kyler Murray, but I can't imagine he brings the same kind of upside as Kyler Murray, especially in this game, in his game environment versus Kyler Murray's. And then we're down to guys like Justin Fields, and that offense just doesn't really produce so much. So I hate to hedge, but I really could go a lot of ways if I had to identify a good quarterback this week.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm going to take the stand that Lamar is the best play of the week. I know he's expensive. I think that'll keep his ownership down enough. I think people don't know whether they know to pair him with Flowers, I guess is what's going to happen. But I like that game a ton. So I'm going to be heaviest on Lamar. Jalen Hurts will be my second highest owned quarterback. I want all the upside. You know what I mean? You get the rushing and the passing upside from both these guys. The difference is that, the problem is for both of them that in both situations, I think that there are going to be a lot of Barkley involved in the Eagles game, and there's going to be a lot of Henry, in my opinion, against Dallas, who doesn't look like they can stop the run. So I think I am personally I have a Lamar 1, Hurts 2, And then I've got a bunch of guys who I'm considering to go next. Kyler would probably be the upside. I guess it's going to chalky-ish play. I actually think Kyler might end up being the most owned here by the end of the week. And as far as the other ones I'm looking at, I also want some rushing upside. So I look low owned against Chicago at home in the Dome. Both Richardson and Caleb Williams at very low ownership, I have some interest in. They're just the ceiling for Richardson is so high because the rushing upside. I don't trust the Colts defense. Maybe this is the first Caleb Williams-ish game. I don't know if I'm quite going to get there. And then I wanted to mention Justin Fields against the Chargers. You need a game script to go your way. I just don't quite know if that's going to be the case. So because I probably end up, I'm wishy-washy on those three, but I'm very much considering it. I have Dak, then Derek Carr as the next two guys for me personally. And I'm not sure what to do with Jared Goff at this moment, and I'm not sure what to do with Stroud. I don't want to spread out too much, Stroud and Darnold. I just feel like there might be other plays that are a little bit better, especially with how good Minnesota's defense has looked. And I don't necessarily trust, it's not that I don't trust Darnold to have a good year, but it's going to be, for a passing quarterback, you need to have a big game. So kind of a weird quarterback position this week. I think I probably, when that happens, I tend to just go to Lamar, Hurts, the guys with the rushing upside, Richardson, like I mentioned, Kyler. Those would be the ones I probably focus on the most. We got John in the chat saying Minshew plus Bowers for all the marbles. I don't think you need to play Minshew with Bowers. I think you just play Bowers and leave it at that.
Is he? He's a tight end.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's going to be so good. He might end up being he could end up being the best in football pretty soon. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Running backs.
Yeah, so this is where, and I don't know why I don't have this one guy projected, but I'll fix that. There are a couple of guys that are just kind of standing out because of injuries and prices, and that would be once again Jordan Mason for San Francisco. He's going to be one of the big chalks. Then presuming I'll presume this, but presuming that Kenneth Walker is out. Then Zach Charbonnet is going to look not quite as good, but pretty freaking damn good. And then the guys, I got to fix the projection. He's going to show up once I guess I fixed the name thing. But Cam Akers, he's another one. So you have like three big value guys who I think are just going to look extraordinarily good. And then, if you didn't want to do any of that, there's just the resurgence of Alvin Kamara. So I think it's pretty clear that those running backs are at the top plays.
Yeah, I think that they are. I'm looking at what else I have. I really like A-Chain. I love Derrick Henry this week. Dallas, I don't know why we won't play Derrick. I know he hasn't looked like the best, and we usually like to wait till later in the season to play him, but 5% ownership against a Dallas team that cannot, just gave up the biggest rushing game of the season to give you an idea. So I like Mason and Charbonnet. Probably end up near the field on them. I like Kamara. I think I might end up below the field. Depends on how much of that game stack I get to. But I like A-Chain just as much as Kamara if we don't have the other Miami backs, which doesn't look like it's going to happen, but not 100% yet. I also like Josh Jacobs, and you can see the difference in ownership here because it's just very hard to tell right now while guys are questionable. Like Jacobs and White, I like both of them very much, but I don't know what to do until I know for sure if they're playing. The one who gets overlooked maybe a little bit is Barkley, and I think that might that would be a case. Maybe you can make a Barkley over Kamara case. I think it makes just as much sense to me as Kamara. So if he's lower owned by any significant measure when it comes Sunday, I think I'll probably go that direction myself. But yeah, I do feel like the chalk is fairly good chalk this week. So I'm just trying to find things to get different, and Derrick Henry was my favorite get different play, I guess.
Well, to me, what was interesting is that when you get into the receivers, I mean, there's so many options that, and again, this could be what everybody's doing, I suppose, but you just, I don't know, maybe just eat the running back stuff so that you can get as many receivers as you can.
Top end guys, yeah. The thing is interesting is the top end guys aren't looking to be especially high owned right now. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You don't really see, like, I would have thought that, CD and all those guys would show up in the top 10 or something. CD's made like right around number 10, and he's banged up. So what do you, I guess for me, I can go through this one real quickly because I built a bunch of lineups already, and I'm going to end up changing them obviously. But as of right now, I've got CD Lamb as the highest owned receiver that I have, partly because I have that game the biggest target on. My second highest owned receiver is the chalky Devontae Smith. But again, I like this game. I really like that New Orleans Philly game. My next highest owned receiver is a tie basically between Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I thought I was going to be getting off of what it might not be as heavy Geno chalk as I was going to, and it was going to be Geno and Charbonnet. So I was going to play these receivers just separately from Geno. There's other guys that I wanted to mention. The Rams receivers is a tough one because I can't figure out who it's going to be, but I do think that it's worth speculating on all of them, including Whittington. But the guy who's been there the most has been Atwell and Robinson. But Robinson relies maybe a little bit more on big plays. So I would say that Atwell's the most mispriced. But I think we're probably going to get into tight end is probably the safest thing to do because it does feel very, very weird to speculate on a giant slate about these receivers that aren't even minimum cost. But again, I think there's some value in doing some of it. I don't know why Brandon Ayuk is not, like, I looked early on and he was not getting nearly the love. Like, okay, you got him at the right. Like, I don't know why Saberson hasn't been 6% ownership. I think he's a terrific play. And I think he's going to be 20% owned. But if he's for some reason 6, then I'll still be way over the field. Love Juwan Jennings as a spend down. Here's your and then I've got my long shot play here. Devin Vele. He's the rookie for Denver. There is talk about him, and he got hurt in week 1. But I'm going to use a little bit of him as a speculative play at 3,400 because there aren't that many real super values that I feel comfortable with. So why wouldn't I speculate on this guy who I hear good things about, and he may end up becoming the number 1 receiver for them, is what I've heard. I don't know. This is just speculation from podcasts, but NFL podcasts, not DFS podcasts, just straight up NFL podcasts. So that's sort of my player. Oh, and of course, Zay Flowers in my Lamar stacks.
Yeah, so I'll just start with, the guy that you just kind of highlighted. My top, again, I think there are a lot of really good options this week. But I'll just go right for Brandon Ayuk is probably at the top of the list. With Debo out and not to mention, right, and McCaffrey out. That's the only thing is that, you could argue that it's not exactly the greatest game script because, they're a big favorite and they might not need to run up too many points, and the Rams, they can make these games ugly also. So, but the Devonta Smith thing, if I had to identify, like, probably if I just throw my chips down on somebody, this is, you got a good game script. You're in the dome. You might be coming from behind. Your best receiver's out. You know what I mean? Like, this is. I think he's a really, really good play. I think the two of them, Ayuk and Smith, kind of stand out for me, I guess. And then, but all these guys, like DK Metcalf, very reasonable, 6,300. Chris Godwin, 6,500. You already mentioned Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is why I guess the Geno Smith thing is getting so much love, is you have both their receivers showing up as such good plays. Not to mention Charbonnet, right? Right. So you want to pair any of that stuff. Geno's just going to come. And then in that same game, Olave, he's got incredible upside. Tank Dell at 5,200. There's so many options here. Not to mention the other guy from Houston, Nico Collins. This is all these receivers look so good that's why I might have to eat some of this running back chalk just so that I can just reduce my combination so I can get to these. Malik Neighbors, 6,400. Now that's a matchup problem. That's, as we talked about earlier, But the Rams guy that I'm getting as the top, Best one is the DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I think people will go with.
Yeah, it looks that way. Now I only see him at 6% ownership, but I think that's only because they haven't really.
I don't know if it'll get much higher. It's not like he's cheap. He's 5K, and he basically he's had no more work than the other guys, any of the other three. So that just for what it's worth. But he does have the best upside. Really, really shady situation for the Rams right now.
But the other thing is that what was I going to say? Is that now this is kind of an ugly one, but Deontay Johnson is 4,900.
Yeah,
and it's been explained to me, I guess, that Andy Dalton's a good quarterback. I can't imagine. I don't know why people.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Yes, but so at 4,900, it's a good play. It just is. You know, they have a good game script. They rate to be behind. So I think all of those receivers I mentioned look decent. Now, I don't know if you mentioned him already, but you know, you could go back down to Jawan Jennings at 4,100. I don't know if you talked about him.
Yeah, I mentioned him.
And another real cheapo that I might as well throw out there is Elijah Moore at 3,600.
Yeah, that's one I don't understand why it's getting traction, but I look, I'm fine with it, but I wasn't as high on it as some other people were. But actually,
it's just because it's 3,600, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And I forgot to mention two guys. I love St. Brown and I love Jamison Williams this week. Absolutely love both of them. Those were the two that I left out because I haven't built my Kyler stacks yet. I was just waiting to see on a few things. All right, so we'll go to tight end here. Bowers, I looked early in the week and it looked like he was not going to get owned. I'm like, this is insane. I think he's by far the best play at the position personally. I think that there's an argument to be made that he could be 6,200 or 6,500 and still be the best play at the position. So I like Bowers. In terms of value is where I'm looking for most of my other tight ends. Oh, I also like Goddard quite a bit. Again, he didn't have the monster game without it. Just because he doesn't do it the first one. I like that if the ownership stays a little bit lower. Really like Goddard. I think that if you're not playing Devontae Smith, playing one of he or Goddard is a pretty good idea to do in a good portion of your lineups. And I'm just looking for the value here. Oh, here we go. Parkinson is the one that I'm coming up with the most from the Rams. That seems like the easiest way to get off of a very roulette feeling type of receiver. At the same time, not the same upside, but we also don't have that much value at tight end. You see Bowers as the best value at tight end, which is kind of wild for a guy's 5,400 at tight end. You don't see that very often. Ferguson, if he plays, I like. If he doesn't, I'm very happy to go right back to Schoonmaker. And then I mentioned I really like Dallas Goedert. Those are my main ones this week. But you could certainly sell me on both the tight ends, both McBride, and then now everyone's least favorite player, Sam Laporta, who start coming into this year we were sure would be, he was the highest owned tight end the first week, and people are just off of him. I think they end up getting the ball back to Laporta more. So that's sort of my pool for tight end right now.
Yeah. So as far as tight ends go, I have Brock Bowers as the top rated guy by a little bit, and at a higher price tag, I have Trey McGronk. That's as well. So I do have Brock Bowers and Trey McBride as my top rated guys, and then after that you have I don't know who's going to play tight end for the Cowboys. If Ferguson remains out or is out, then the Studebaker or whatever is cheap. And he had I think he had 6 targets and 6 catches or something like that last week. So watch for that. Goddard, perfectly logical play. And then I don't know if you mentioned him, but Colby Parkinson for the Rams.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah, okay, these are all the same guys.
Yeah, Noah Fant to add to the Seattle stacks. That's not bad. And then it's another game script type thing, but you have Greg Dulcich is 2,900. Not the great matchup, whatever, but I mean it's and certainly not the best quarterback situation yet. But they looked his way several times last week, and 2,900 is not a lot. And you get Tampa Bay up 27-10. You can get some charity touchdown. It's possible.
Yeah.
So I don't mind him either. It's funny. Yeah, you were right about the two guys that I really thought were going to extend their not hype, but their development was, I thought, Laporta. I guess everybody thought that.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for a couple of more good games for Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, it's weird because they've been. That's sort of what I was talking about with Fields. Like they're just they manage their way to victory the last 2 games, and if they ever have a reason they really need to tear it out and do things, we might see a different version of that offense. But Freiermuth right now, they're just not utilizing very much. They're pounding the ball, they're running it 35 times, and they've got Fields in there to basically scramble and do whatever with Pickens when they don't. So I'm with you though. I like Laporta and I like Freiermuth. They're good real life tight ends as well. But yeah, I think Parkinson's the best value on that side, unless Ferguson's out. I think it's Parkinson and Schoonmaker are both very, very good values. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about defenses, which Sheets is not going to want to talk about at all. I understand it.
No, it's fine. I'm actually a little bit surprised that the team I thought was going to be the best play is just not even projected. They're rated 20th as far as points per dollar go.
Yeah.
So the way I have it rated right now is I have at Tampa as the best play. They also look to be the highest owned, and not surprisingly. And then I have next, as far as points per dollar or whatever it goes, I have the Titans at 2,700. And then you could play. I mean, if you feel like playing 3,800, you could play the Browns. Obviously, that they have 20-point upside against Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
They probably have a 20-point floor against Daniel Jones if you want to know the truth. But Colts look decent against Malik. Did they play Malik Willis? No, they play the Bears, right?
Yeah.
So that's
no. Malik Willis. Wait, sorry. Tennessee.
Yeah, the Colts are playing the Bears, right?
Yeah, Colts are playing the Bears. Tennessee is playing Green Bay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna reiterate my take in that I think it's clear who the best play is, and that would be the Cardinals. I mean, they're 2,300 in a fast-paced game against a guy who has 20-point upside for his opposing defenses his whole career in general.
Except for the last 3 years. That's the only problem.
I get it, but I mean, Arizona, they edge rush, they do whatever, they're aggressive. I mean, I don't know. In GPPs, I'm going to be in games where I don't have that game stacked. I'm going to have a big amount of that Arizona.
Right, and even though I was poking with mine, I have Arizona as my highest owned defense right now. So
there you go.
I have Arizona number 1, Tennessee number 2, Seattle number 3, Bucks number 4. Seattle's a little more expensive, but I think we should be playing Seattle against an unknown. That quarterback looked like he couldn't do anything. I'm sure McDaniels will come up with some creative running stuff, which might hurt it. But I do think there's upside for those defenses.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you have different situations. You have the Arizona defense has 25-point upside, and they could legit get 0. Or worse. And as opposed to teams like the Titans and not so much the Colts, maybe a little bit. The Titans, everybody involved in those types of games, they don't have maybe that 25-point upside, but they're not getting smoked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Titans are not ending up with 0. It's just not going to happen.
Right, absolutely. And it's annoying because you get with the running with Willis and everything, but I still think anyway, I think there's plenty of upside. All right, well, it should be a fun week. I feel wishy-washy on it, and I'm trying to build out lineups by hand, and I'm trying to run sims, and I just think I need to wait a little bit longer until we know a few things before I do anything. Because even that one situation in Dallas, it's a $1,200 difference, which doesn't sound like that much, but I'm going to play either Ferguson or Schoonmaker. But you really want to save. I think you want to try to get up to, as you mentioned earlier, like some of these receivers. But I'm going to go further and say I think these other guys, like you're going to have Justin Jefferson at 5% against Houston, the best receiver in football if he plays. Now he's questionable to play, so maybe that number jumps up a little bit. But CeeDee Lamb at only 10% in a game that I think is going to end up playing a lot faster than people do. I don't know, man. It feels like trying to get to these guys might not be a bad idea. And no one is going to play Tyreek Hill, and that's just always a potential 40 on waiting. You know what I mean?
Well, you're emphasizing it in a different way. The point I was making at the very beginning is that these receivers can all smash, all these guys, and there's going to be somebody that gets 20 points plus, or maybe more that is going to be less than 5%, and everybody's going, oh my God, why didn't we play them? Well, keep in mind, you can only play 3, you know what I mean, or whatever. Right. So they're just you're not gonna be able to play everybody. So the point is that I think that you should take some chances at other positions, like even I don't know, defense or like chalk out on the running backs if you have to, just so that you can access. So what do you give up? So if you chalk it on the running back and you don't get upside out of a lot of things, what are you risking? I guess someone could get like 30 from the running back position, but I mean, I doubt if you're that afraid of that, then play the A-chain, because I think he's the one that's
gets forgotten.
Him and Kamara, I guess they both can smash. But I don't know. I just assume play Mason, take my 15, 16 points, plus play. Well, I don't know. The Charbonnet one is a little bit weird to me. I seem to recall other games in the past year or two where Walker was out, where everybody jammed on the Charbonnet, and they found these other guys to like get reps. I don't remember who or what or where, but I just seem to have that in my head that like all of a sudden Travis Homer got reps and whoever else was in Seattle I never heard of got reps. I don't know that I've seen Jordan Mason get the workload, Don't know for sure if that's going to happen with Charbonnet. Listen, probably. So that's why he's projecting the way it is, and that's why he's going to be highly owned. And what about? And
I think Charbonnet is an absolute lock to get all the work.
Well, there you go. So
they love Charbonnet. They try to get him in the game when Walker plays. And they last week we just had the same situation, and Charbonnet did not have a good game, but he was the only running back to touch the ball.
Well, I guess now that Carroll's not there. Right? So the point is then is that I'm not the guy to make rules and stuff like that. But if you were the type to do this, think that in GPPs, I think you want to get as many receivers as you can. So I think you want to try to get the receiver in the flex if possible, and take 2 spots for your running backs. And if you have to shuffle, Mason, Charbonnet, A-chain, whatever, but keep it to a small amount. What did we talk about Akers all that much? He showed up as a good point per dollar play. What do you think of that?
I didn't. What did I miss here with? I feel like I missed something all of a sudden.
No.
Oh yeah, he did. I forgot about that. This is part of the problem. I forgot about. When I last built, I was still questionable about whether Mixon would play, even though we found out yesterday he wouldn't. Okay. Yeah, Akers is definitely somebody you probably want exposure to. I do think that Agunbanwale will get a little bit of work too. But I do think that Akers, I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Akers is obviously a chalk piece.
But how do you separate these, right? So or how do you play it? Like if you have Mason, Charbonnet, what I was going to say is if you have Mason, Charbonnet, and Akers, if you want to shuffle those 3 in your 2 running back spots for
there's just drastically different prices, so it really depends on what you're doing. Instead of Devontae Smith, you're playing Justin Jefferson with Akers.
Oh, that's right. So you do that, but what you risk is A-chain and Kamara. You know what I mean? Right. You risk those guys going crazy.
But you could argue that I can make a case for Charbonnet and Mason both going crazy too.
Okay.
And I'm a Rams fan, but this is not the same run defense that it once was. Like there's no Aaron Donald in there stopping every single play. It's just not happening. So I think they all can go crazy. But I think the ultimate upside, I hear you, with the Kamara and the A-chain seem like they're the highest. But the real guy who might be the highest that gets overlooked a little bit. Well, we'll see by the end of the week. But Saquon is the one in that same spot. I don't see why Kamara is much better of a play than Saquon is.
Well,
in fact, I would say I'll go the opposite. I think Saquon is a better play than Kamara is.
You think that Saquon's a better play than Kamara?
Yeah. Okay. So we're judging it because literally after week 1, even though he had a good week, all you could hear from everybody. See, this is why we can't play Kamara, because you got Taysom Hill running things in the offense down there. They scored 47 points and Kamara only had 20. We can't play Kamara. But then because he has touchdown variance on his side, he scores 4 against the Cowboys. Now all of a sudden he's more of a lock. I think Saquon's more of a lock to get those. He won't get the absolute goal line carry. He won't get it within the 2-yard line, but he'll get all the other touches for the team. I think he ends up with way more touches than Kamara. That's just my take.
We'll
see.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Especially without Antonio, without AJ Brown. I mean, remember, Barkley had a great week last week. He just dropped the one pass on third down that would have sealed the game. But like he's putting up numbers too. Like, the guy's put up, what has he put up so far? He did 3 touchdowns in his first game. Yeah, he's the highest scoring fantasy player right now. He was 5 yards away from the 100-yard bonus last week. He didn't get the touchdown because they did the tush push. I think there's a great chance for Saquon. I think he is a better play. I'm going to talk myself into it just because the ownership is going to go the other way. I'm going to take Barkley over Kamara. All right, Cheats. Anything else we should talk about before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
All right, sounds good, buddy. All right, good luck to everybody, and
we'll see if you can get out of the.
Yeah, I'm going to. I'll make it for your thing.
And I'll send you the link. It'll be a Zoom link. I'll send it to you.